Next up, we're addressing how you can win at delivery. We've certainly all dealt with delivery issues, from soggy fries to melted ice in our drinks, but these two operators are owning at the delivery game with their ultimate logistical planning, innovative consumer appeal, and open-mindedness to trying new endeavors. I want to introduce Linden Pride, owner of Dante and Shelby Allison, co-owner of Lost Lake. A native of Australia, Linden Pride began his career in the hospitality industry in some of Sydney, Australia's best restaurants, where he received recognition as Australian Bartender of the Year and Australian Restaurant Manager of the Year from 2010. In 2015, Pride partnered with Natalie Hudson to form Figure of Eight Hospitality and reopen Dante, the 100-year-old West Village institution. Shelby Allison co-owns Lost Lake, a tropical cocktail bar in Chicago that opened in 2015 and was named Best American Cocktail Bar at Tales of the Cocktails 2018 Spirited Awards. Lost Lake is a two-time James Beard Foundation finalist for Outstanding Bar Program and earned a spot on the world's 50 best bars list in 2018. Shelby was one of Chicago Women's 10 most influential women in Chicago's food and beverage community and one of Wine Enthusiast's 40 Under 40 tastemakers in 2018. Let's get right into this session to discover the secret to enabling delivery in the new off-premise era. Elaine, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much for the great introduction. We are shifting into dealing with delivery logistics. I have two guests joining me today who have executed some very creative tactics. I want to welcome Linden Pride, the owner of Dante in New York, and Shelby Allison, the co-owner of Lost Lakes. Thanks for joining me today for this discussion.
Thank you for having us.
So great to see you both. So, as we know, COVID changed everything for all of us. And in March, everybody had to switch from an in-person operation to an out-person operation where we had to solely put delivery into our play. And now we're kind of back into almost 50-50 of in-person and also to go. So I want to just get kind of like your story of how you kind of switched from one to the other. And then some of the things you put into place almost immediately when just getting it off the ground. So Linden, I'd love to start with you to hear your story.
Well, in New York, as some of you may be aware, we were shut down by the state mandate on Sunday night. I think it was around March 15th. And for us at Dante, that means we closed the restaurant and we laid everybody off on that Monday. But then on Tuesday morning, the governor issued a mandate that allowed us to sell any of our products that we produced in-house. We were able to sell them to go. And we kind of shifted quickly because we thought, this is a lifeline for us, and it means that we can, continue to employ our staff, potentially offer them health insurance and try to keep the business moving forward and not stagnant. And we had, at the time, we kind of scrambled and we had 5,000 of these stickers left over from a pop-up that we had done in New Orleans, where you're allowed to dump your drink in a plastic cup and take it on the road with you. And we had these little Dante stickers that said, one for the road, Dante, New York City. Plus we had some coffee cups that I had branded for To Go Coffee that said on the back of them, next time, join us for a Negroni. And we thought that quickly we could apply these cups to actually be, roadies, as we would call them, out of the bar in New York, as opposed to just in New Orleans, and then also use the coffee cups to house some of our Negronis and so forth. So we had some tools at our disposal that we could start to incorporate into a new to-go program, and from there we just started. It just started the momentum, and obviously there's all sorts of challenges that lay ahead of us, but that was the impetus that got us started, really.
Yeah. So I know, Shelby, you had some of your own stuff going on where you had to make a quick transition. So how did it get started for you?
Yeah, so we in Chicago were also closed by a mandate from our governor as well. And we decided not to offer any in-house dining at all, even when we were allowed to reopen with limited capacity. So we've been fully to go since we closed in middle of late March. But we were not allowed to have to-go cocktails, single serving to-go cocktails in Illinois until the end of May. And so we were trying to do like cocktail kits with full-size bottles and, like large quantities of fruit and our single casks. And then we can also deliver beer and wine as well, but it just wasn't a hit. And so we were really hanging on tight until the Illinois state legislature passed cocktails to go as a legal operation for us. And once we did that, we found a little bit more success as far as business goes.
But you had mentioned to me that you had tried some things like meal kits or things like that didn't really go so well.
Yeah. No, so we were offering, a daiquiri frappe kit or a banana daiquiri kit or a Lost Lake cocktail kit. And I think that once you scale the price up in order to, cover your costs, consumers just were not vibing with the price tag, which is understandable. And so, yeah, it wasn't very successful for us.
And what happened when it changed? Because there was definitely, there was one bar, right, that helped change the law, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Julia Momose is the owner of Kamiko here in Chicago, and she organized an effort to literally rewrite the law with members of the Illinois state legislature. And once that was passed, we were allowed to serve single serving cocktails to go. There are some limitations. We have to serve them in glass bottles with tamper evident caps, and they can't be delivered by third party couriers. So like we can't send them out with a Caviar or DoorDash delivery. People have to pick them up in person here from the bar. So there are limitations, but it has absolutely been a lifeline for my bar as well as other bars in Chicago, I know for sure.
No, that's great. And I definitely know. So, a lot of you both said that you mentioned you started off with things that you had, like using your own inventory, right? Inventory at first, like the products you had actually at your bar. And then what things did you end up having to purchase to kind of get it going further based on like after you already had the stuff you had, like those stickers you were talking about with Dante or the to-go cups? I'm assuming there's some things you had to purchase, like the bare minimum, just to start moving things out. So Linden, what did you have to end up putting together?
Well, I mean, we had those two vessels, which we were allowed to do single serve drinks initially in New York. So we had those two vessels for single serve drinks. But we'd been working with batching cocktails and also serving them on tap or having them in a larger format bottle and freezing them and serving them tableside, almost like a fine wine, I guess. And so we had thought, how do we make these cocktails into a larger format and beyond just the single serve? And so we went online and kind of scrambled to find packaging or glass bottles that we thought would be able to house these larger formats, and ordered a bunch of them in, and started sort of having a look at how these could be sold online and through our website and so forth. So all of a sudden we had the single serve drinks, but then we had cocktails available in 8-ounce bottle, and we also had larger 750 ml bottles in-house already that we were using for a martini menu that we have been working on. So we had these sort of large, beautiful, custom labeled martini bottles, and we thought, well, maybe people would like a larger format bottle to be able to house in their freezer or be able to kind of be used throughout the week as opposed to just a single serve delivered to their house for the one drink. And I think that transition to using the bottles was I guess one of the big moments or milestones in kind of the development of the to-go program. But I would add the caveat that none of this was planned out. It was kind of like every day we would sit down and work out whether what we were doing was the right thing. Could we survive by are we could the business survive? Are we putting ourselves in danger from the pandemic? There was a lot of very difficult decisions, and a lot of this we really just felt out along the way. There was no strategy behind it.
No, I think a lot of people were just figuring out as to go. And Shelby, I know you had some interesting stories how you started really getting things out there in the world.
Yeah, so we had to purchase a lot of bottles. When the cocktails to go law was passed, it specified that the cocktails needed to be served in glass bottles that with tamper evident caps. And so it was trial and error with shapes and sizes of bottles. It was trial and error with cap sizes, working with different labels. I had to buy a new printer. We had to buy a laser printer so that we could print on waterproof labels. Everything else was just kind of bleeding all over the place. I also purchased a large stand-up beverage cooler from a tanning salon that says Tan Lines Express on the front that I now stock all the cocktails in. We had to pivot entirely into just a grab and go convenience cocktail store.
No, and so were you guys, I know now that you guys have been doing this for a while, what did you find your best formats, the ones that are selling the best? Is it the large format, the single formats? What have you seen the most success with? Either one.
For us in Chicago, sorry, Linden.
We'll go with Shelby.
Okay, sorry. For us in Chicago, it has been our 8-ounce bottle. It's priced at $20 and as an all-inclusive price, and it holds about a drink and a half. We tell people, of course, that has been moving pretty well, but we just introduced this last week some large format cocktails as well. So the 750 milliliter size bottle that usually would be in play at the bar with spirit batches or juices now are going home with people filled with cocktails, and they get hit.
Did you have any problems in the beginning, with pricing at first? Because you weren't sure, certain things weren't moving because of the price?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. $20 is a big hike from where we used to be, but we've made a couple of changes that accompany that price. So we are including tax. We've also eliminated tipping at Lost Lake, and we're paying a higher base hourly rate for all of our employees, as well as covering 50% of a healthcare plan. So we have a little sign on our window next to the menu that explains that price difference. And I think that, our neighborhood where we are, the types of restaurants that we share our community with, our guests are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to some of those more detailed issues facing, workers in the hospitality industry. And so for the most part, people have been very supportive of the higher price.
That's great. And Linden, for you, I know you have a bunch of different formats. Do you think it's important to offer multiple formats, and what's been the most successful?
I think the variety is great. I mean, to be honest with you, the to-go cocktails for us really peaked in April and May, and in June when we were able to reopen outside, we actually saw the bottle cocktail sales kind of dip a little bit in New York, at least. And what we then did was, I mean, the 8-ounce bottle was definitely probably our most popular format, but we started to offer them in packs. So we do our Negroni sessions and 4 different Negronis, 4 different 8-ounce bottles of Negronis, or the Martini Hour, we do 4 or 8 different martinis, and decided, how do we translate the experience that people have at Dante to their homes? And I mean, for me, my experience in a bar goes far beyond just the liquid in the glass or the food on the plate. And, I think it really comes down to the ritual, how people connect with the brand and how you make them feel. And so we kind of applied that lens to the bottled cocktails and the packs that we started putting together, and thought, how do we actually create a moment that people can tune out from the rest of their day? Instead of tapping into their favorite bar and going and visiting a friend in their favorite bar, they're choosing to do that at home. So we started to think about little playlists that you could QR code to the music that would be playing at Dante for the cocktail hour, or for a late night, or even the mornings. So people would listen to a small playlist. We had custom posters that we distributed, bunches of flowers, a bottle of Perrier or San Pellegrino, boxes of matches with a candle. So we really worked hard to say, what's the whole experience here that people are kind of looking for. And by doing that, we saw that a lot of those larger format packs where there was multiple drinks, or some of the larger bottles, we started doing an Aperol Spritz kit and a margarita kit, for example, were very popular. And we added a small educational component to it, where you could QR code to a 1-minute video that showed you how to make an Aperol Spritz on our website, and so forth. And
wow.
So I think that that evolution of thinking about the experience, we try to apply how we apply it to in venue was like a really important part to sort of the evolution of the programs.
Absolutely. Is there anything that Lost Lake to make sure people understand it's a lot? Because people have to pick it up there, so they are coming to the bar, correct, Shelby?
Yeah. So they're getting to interact with a Lost Laker at the window, ask questions, check in with everyone. I love the idea of a QR code to playlists. Coming soon to Lost Lake, please look out. Thank you, Linden.
See, we're picking up ideas all over the place. But Shelby, you did something really interesting. You were featuring your staff, weren't you, on your Instagram to kind of get people, because they're really tied in. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have a really tight crew. And, I think first and foremost, Lost Lake is a neighborhood bar, and we're filled to the brim with regulars most of the nights of the week. And so while we were closed, we deliveries was, I guess, about 3 or 4 weeks. I wrote a twice weekly newsletter, and I would solicit little entries and essays from our Lost Lakers. And so we got to keep our guests connected and engaged with us, simultaneously, having them make donations to our staff GoFundMe, which was extremely helpful. But yeah, we got to keep in contact with them, and I learned a lot about what our guests like and what they miss about Lost Lake. And some of those things are what I've tried to incorporate in the to-go menu. We have a lot more agave on the menu now, which is something that everyone was requesting. People were wild about our Christmas menu, so we'll be starting that earlier this year. And then other ways that we just kind of like packed Lost Lake to go in the bags as they were like walking out the window are just kind of like our cocktails have very ridiculous names. The packaging is very colorful and whimsical. And yeah, we just try to add those little touches that you would find here at Switzerland and Illa.
Well, you mentioned your newsletter, and that's kind of how you started to letting people know, because I was just about to ask both of you how you actually let people know about your to-go program. So, Lindsay, since you were talking about the newsletter, tell us a little more about that, because I think it was really creative.
Yeah, so our newsletter was a collection of recipes. I opened it up like a request line. I would have people write in, and we would tell the story behind a cocktail, whether it's the development of the recipe, where the name comes from, what song is it inspired by, all those kind of things. We did workout plans from bartenders. We did, Dalgona coffee recipes from our chef. We had just kind of like all the different playlists that people were listening to at home, just how Lost Lakers were spending their time in quarantine. People were really very interested in it. And, at the end of that period, when we decided to reopen for delivery, I did have a captive audience, which was great. And also, our Instagram is probably our most powerful marketing tool that we've had since the day we opened here. And so that's probably the number one way that we're able to communicate our menu changes and updates to hours, days, policies, different things like that. We have a lot of engagement there.
And weren't you able to also get a subscription going for your newsletter as a way to raise money for your staff?
Yeah, we required a tip in the GoFundMe tip jar, and I would then send a message through GoFundMe with a link to subscribe. So only people that were helping us float our little Lost Lakers got the recipes.
That's fantastic. And Linden, what did you do to let people know what you were doing at the bar, and why do you guys think it's so important? Because this is something I don't see a lot of people doing well. So Linden, what did you guys do?
I mean, during that initial period after the shutdown, we were, as I mentioned, we had 49 staff, and we had let go of the majority of them, and it was just my wife and I, Natalie, really with a very small handful for that first week. And what was interesting for us is that the people who we saw were, they were coming every day or every other day, or calling for delivery every day or every other day, food and drinks. And it was that same community that is in and around on our block, within our zip code, and it was just incredible how strong that connection was with us to these local, I guess, our local community. And funnily enough, that's where we started with Dante. When we first opened the restaurant, it was a very small team, and and we weren't busy, and we had the time to get to know all these people who lived in and around us. And it was a lot of those same faces that were coming in, reconnecting with the brand, and wanting to help us. And that's where it started again. I felt like we started a brand new business. I feel like no longer were we worried about how am I going to find a table of 4 at 8 p.m. on a Monday, but I was now stressing over the internet connection going down and the prices not being loaded properly on the website for people to order cocktails for delivery. And I had delivery drivers who were not delivering bottled cocktails and disappearing with, and sort of pocketing them themselves. So
wow,
it was that immediate connection back with our community that, that saw us start to get momentum again. And a lot of people were reaching out to us and saying, how do we help? What do we do? And we made the decision at the end of that week to try to bring back as many staff as we could to work. And we thought that's the way that we can, as opposed to trying to raise, like I said, we have 50 staff, as opposed to trying to raise a big GoFundMe of $50,000 where everybody maybe got $1,000. Maybe we could re-employ everybody, give them health insurance, and they can actually start to earn their wage back again. And so customers were trying to find ways to reinvest in the business. And we created a program for hospital meal donations where we were cooking meals for local hospitals. And we produced about 5,000 of those meals. And by doing that, the community, the support of the community continued to grow. And people really wanted to get behind that program, as well as a program that we were doing free meals for out-of-work hospitality staff at 5 p.m. every day, a family meal. And I think those programs continue to sort of grow in terms of awareness, and people continue to come down and support. And that enabled us to keep hiring back our staff, be able to continue to provide us an amenity and a service to the community. And I think that's really from that small base of the people in our immediate area. That's kind of how we started to grow with the momentum throughout the 4 months that we were shut down.
That's fantastic. Well, the one thing we haven't spoken about is actually delivery logistics. So I know this is like a new thing for everybody, right? About like having to work with a delivery service. So Linden, since you were like, what are the things you went through? Because I knew you had a couple of different formulas before you got to
Right.
what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, the first thing we did was we bought 2 bikes, and we had, as I said, that we were in the spirit of trying to give everybody work who wanted to work, and so we were riding the bikes ourselves and dropping things off to people. But as it grew, we engaged a third-party delivery service that would come and pick up the products and deliver them anywhere below 42nd Street in Manhattan, east to west, all the way down to the financial district. And as soon as we were able to engage in that kind of third-party delivery, we saw the sales increase exponentially compared to what we were doing. And at that time, we're talking early April, there were probably only a handful of bars that were open anyway, let alone doing delivery. So just having that kind of broad reach, people were understanding, supportive of timing with the drinks and so forth, getting it there. But that's really when we started to hunker down and push that, drinks had to be bottled and so forth, because, we'd get feedback and photos of drinks that would have gone 40 blocks on the back of a bike, and they'd been shaken up and thrown all over the place. Like I mentioned, we had deliveries that just never made it to the door, even though they said they were delivered and so forth. So with the third party, we had all sorts of new challenges, and it really felt like, as I mentioned before, we'd started a brand new business, one that we certainly weren't familiar with.
Sure. Just one last question. So what you went through all the traditional ones like caviar and things like that, but you now are using a very specific, you went through like a one that's not even a food delivery app, right? You're using like a very specific service.
Yeah, we had been on caviar, and it was just so incredibly frustrating that it'd take 3 or 4 days to change the menu. We were trying to evolve daily. And so we actually ended up setting up an online portal through our website. So we would deal with the customers directly, and we actually found a way to engage those same delivery bike riders that were delivering for Grubhub or Caviar or any of those third parties, and be able to connect with them directly. So we would notify them when the food was ready, they'd come pick it up, and we'd pay them a small fee to deliver the products. So that cut out the middleman, which was great.
That is, really smart and really going. So, Lindsay, so Shelby. Oh my God, why did I say Lindsay? Shelby. Shelby, you did everything right there, right? Do you have to deliver anything? Or do people have to come pick it up?
So for
Yeah, I'll go back to, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I said, Shelby, please tell us, I know obviously it's a little bit different in Chicago. So tell us your logistics that you go through for your delivery service, or does everything have to get picked up at the bar?
Yeah, so cocktails to go do need to be picked up at the bar by the guest. The to-go law specifies that we cannot engage third-party couriers to deliver those cocktails. It's very frustrating and definitely limiting, but we're working on adding some in-house delivery, hopefully through the fall. But yeah, we are on DoorDash. We used to be on Caviar. Of course, they're the same now. We're adding another platform called Talk here in Chicago. And then you can also find Lost Lake on a platform called Chow Now. Basically, I just feel like as many lines as we can have out in the water will catch as many customers as is possible. For us, because we just have the to-go window, interacting with couriers is pretty seamless. We have our little command station. So as the orders come in, they get rung in, and then yeah, it's been honestly as far as using the food courier systems for our food, and then our spirits and beer and stuff. It's been okay.
Fair enough. What is the thing? There's the last question. So to make sure your orders are correct going out the door, what are some systems you put into place? Because obviously you don't want returns. So Linden, you want to get started?
I mean, the funny thing for us was that, inside the bar turned into a production line. We had to reroute printers, and we had all sorts of boxes and new systems that we had to kind of develop on the fly. But the benefit was that we had a whole restaurant that we could basically use it kind of felt like Breaking Bad for a little while. We had one guy at the back mixing batch cocktails and trying to bottle them while somebody was taking orders. And, it was, we had to feel our way through it, and those systems kind of evolved very rapidly. But it was, it required a little army of people to have a specific task that would then move down the conveyor belt kind of thing. In the production line, and then finally it would be handed out the door or handed onto a safely distanced table that somebody would swoop in and then come pick up. But we were lucky; we had two doors, so we had one on each side where people could order and then pick up on the other side.
And Shelby, for you, is there a way you make sure everything goes out just the way it was ordered?
Yeah, so our tickets print with 2 copies. The chef creates the order, bags it, and then we have someone who is working the window, and we just double check it and send it away. I mean, we've been pretty good. We haven't had too many mistakes. I feel proud about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Shelby and Linden. This has been amazing. Really, some great information about best practices, about delivery logistics and to-go cocktails. I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot today. I definitely did. And for those of you tuning in, stay right here. There's some more great content coming your way on Bar Virtual.